So you finally decided that you're gonna open an investing account, but wait, you don't know what to invest in? Fam, don't stress, I got you. So we're gonna go through a couple of points that you need to consider before you can think about what you want to invest in. Point number one, what's your time frame? What's your goal? Number two, individual stocks or ETFs. And the last point is whether or not index funds are the place that you need to be at. So without further ado, let's get this party started. So point number one, what's your time frame? What's your goal? Now, before we go any deeper into this point, I want you to keep in mind that if you're only watching this because you want to make fast cash, I need you to do three things. Number one, log out. Number two, hit up the Falls View Casino. And number three, just put your money all into there. When it comes down to losing money, I think it's a little bit more fun to lose it while you're gambling versus losing it within the stock market, being depressed, and then saying, why did I do this? So yeah, but if you're here because you're trying to get that generational wealth, stay logged in. So again, just touching base, if your time frame is anywhere from like a medium to a long term, which could really be anywhere from 3 years all the way to 20 plus years, then this is where you want to be right now. Then you want to think about what your goal is. So when it comes down to you locking your profits with any types of investments, where do you want to reallocate those profits? Do you want to put them back into your portfolio? Do you want to withdraw them so that you could potentially go into a real estate deal with them? Or what is it exactly that you're trying to aim for when you make profits with your investment? Regardless of what your goal is or what your time frames are, I do want you to keep in mind that the average year-on-year return of the S&P 500 is 10%. What does this mean? This means that if we look on like a 20 to 50 year type of horizon as to what the S&P 500 has actually returned to people, it averages out to 10%. This doesn't mean that it's 10% every single year. Sometimes it could be at 25%, sometimes it could be negative 10%. But averaging it out, it comes down to plus 10% every single year. If you don't know what the S&P 500 is, don't even stress. We're gonna touch up on it later on in this video, so stay tuned. So if you don't know what your timeframes and goals are just yet, I think it's a very important thing to tie it around this average return. So for example, if I know that my time frame is going to be 5 years and I know that the average market return is 10%, then something realistic to look into is a 50% return within the next 5 years. And this is really how you want to formulate your potential goals and your potential timeframes. Now, point number two, individual stocks versus ETFs. Now, if you don't know what ETFs are, I think the easiest analogy to kind of break this down for you is like a pack of those goldfish crackers, right? We all love them, even if you're 2, if you're 22, you're 62, you love goldfish crackers. So once you look at the actual bag of goldfish, you take one goldfish out. That one goldfish would be considered to be one stock, okay? But then if we were to just dump that entire goldfish bag on the table, you see a bunch of different little goldfishies. Those bunch of different goldfishies represent different stocks. And when they're inside of the bag, that is what an ETF is. Because an ETF basically is a bunch of different stocks all bundled into one specific ticker symbol. Now, there's a bunch of pros and cons when it comes down to buying individual stocks and a bunch of pros and cons when it comes down to buying ETFs. Now, one of the biggest cons that really stands out to me when it comes down to investing in individual stocks is that it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and if you're still getting into this game right now, it's gonna take a lot of learning for you to decide what factors should I analyze to determine if this company is worth me putting my money into. Even worse, another factor to consider is what your account size is. Because let's be real, let's just say that you decide to put in the work and the effort, and let's just say it amounts to what, like 100 hours out of your total lifespan. Okay, cool, good for you, you learned something new, amazing, I rate it. But let's just say your account size was only, $1,000. So you put the full $1,000 into the stock, it blows up. It's like 50% up, like you're chilling like a villain on penicillin type of thing. The bad part about this is you've only made yourself a $500 profit. And this is where it comes down to the trade-offs. It's like, is it really worth me putting all of my time into this research essentially just to get $500 versus somebody on the other hand who has an account size of well over 100,000. In this situation, putting $100,000 and then putting that research on top of it would actually yield you more results, because a 50% return there would end up being $50,000. I think that's well worth my time spent on researching this individual company. And this is really my biggest talking point when it comes down to individual stocks. ETFs, on the other hand, it doesn't really require a lot of research. You just kind of have to know what kind of stocks does this ETF invest in? Because usually how they're broken down, it's by industry or it's by market capitalization size. You don't have to worry about this right now, I'm just giving examples. But essentially you'd be spending less time and effort researching into an ETF because there's the diversification there. Diversification just meaning, hey, you got a bunch of stocks all into one. So, 5 stocks out of the 500 or whatever end up tanking, you've still got the other ones to kind of back it up. So you'll only see like a negative 0.2% out of your entire portfolio size. I feel like it's a lot more worth it because with ETFs, you have a higher chance of the actual percentages going up. So it really makes more sense from like a time perspective to invest in ETFs rather than individual stocks. And it really comes down to you again when it comes down to your account size. What are you starting off with? My personal baseline rule is if it's less than $100,000, just ETF it. If it's more than $100,000, then it's worth going into individual stocks. Now, point number 3, what are index funds? Should I get into these and what the hell are they? So index funds are very similar to ETFs and both of them are considered to be mutual funds. It's the exact same principle we were talking about with the goldfish, where index funds essentially are a bunch of different stocks, again, all packed into one. The only difference here is that you can't directly invest in an index fund. You have to go through an ETF that mimics it and then invest in that ETF instead. The main reason that these index funds exist is to kind of give an indicator of a certain market. I know you guys have heard of the S&P 500, the Dow Jones Industrial, or even the Nasdaq 1000. And basically these are indicators as to how the market is looking right now. For example, the S&P 500 is a collection of 500 different American companies all bunched into one, and it serves as a perfect indicator to how the American economy is looking like. The Dow Jones Industrial Average takes 30% of the top companies, and then the Nasdaq 1000 takes the top 1000. Now when it comes down to index funds, I personally feel that this is one of the best investing strategies hands down, especially if you have an account size over 100K. Even in a situation where your account size is more than this, still having a percentage of your portfolio going to this is probably the best bet because you're really just riding the wave. It's like, that quote, if you can't beat them, join them. This really refers to the market. If you can't beat the market average returns, you might as well join it and just kind of ride the wave. Whether the market's up 10%, you're guaranteed 10% on whatever your portion that you put into that, and so on. And a really good part about index funds is that the things that actually make them up usually don't change. Like the S&P 500 changes only from like time to time. It's nothing like an actual mutual fund that you're used to from like a banker or something where they actively change it on a daily basis. That gives you the peace of mind where it's like, you know what, this isn't gonna change, it's just gonna keep going how it is. I don't need to spend time, I don't need to put in efforts into researching. I can just park up my cash here and I'm chilling, you know what I mean? Okay, you probably don't know what I mean because that didn't make sense, but you see what I'm saying, right? So fam, you don't know what to invest in? Here's what I would personally do if I was in your shoes as a beginner investor. Two things I have to ask myself. What's my account size? If it's less than 100,000, putting that straight into the S&P 500 and I'm just chilling until the account size eventually grows. Along with consistent contributions, I'm gonna make sure that I'm putting a specific portion into my account to grow it on top of whatever is in there right now. And then once you get to the point where you're at 100K plus, or you're already at that stage, then I would really consider going nitty gritty and defining what type of stocks do you want to put in your portfolio. And the last thing is, while you're actually waiting for your account size to grow to 100,000, then I would definitely recommend still learning about all of the different factors that it comes down to when analyzing individual stocks. So some really great places you want to start are the financial statements of a company. Understand what each line means, understand the actual text that is discussed within a financial statement, and then maybe another place that you could go on to next are the value metrics. So the EPS, the PDE ratio, payout ratios, like understand exactly what these are while you're in the journey of getting to your X amount until 100K plus. Z community, I do understand that this could be a little controversial, so if you're not a beginner investor, or you are and you have a different approach to, going about this, let me know in the comment section down below, and I love hearing from you guys, so let me know. But Z community cuties, thank you for tuning into this week's video. Tamara Azizz signing out. Peace.